Today I'm painting my favourite hero, the Incredible Hulkaman, the Hulkamaniac, Hulk Hogan, Big Daddy Hulk, the notorious Hulk. Underpaint some shadows and tone and shit just for a bit of colour variety. But my main aim for this piece is just almost just to play with the paint, just to have a play, have a paint. Mix your acrylics quite thickly, so you need fewer layers when you're putting it all onto the page. The sort of rule I've figured out over time is if you're painting on a light surface, you paint light to dark. If you're painting on a darker surface, you paint dark to light. So this is kind of a bit in between, kind of. It's a bit of a mid-tone surface and a little bit of a lighter surface. So you start with fairly light colours and then you paint in the darker tones over that. Lighter tones on the lighter areas, the raised part of the cheeks here, the muzzle here would be lighter in tone, and maybe on the nose there, the nosity nose. And of course, every bloody where else, because he's all green all over, isn't he? The purples are in there more just for a bit of flavour, yeah? A little bit of flavour in there. Maybe the shadows, the underside of his nose could be good in purple rather than a darker green. And then you can put a green atop that. And as you can see, I've mixed an array of greens with some brown here, some burnt umber with the green. What green is it? Like a forest green. Grass green, there you go. Mix some brown with it here, some yellow ochre here, white here, and then white with the yellow ochre to get some variety in the tones that you're using. Like if I'm painting the Hulk and I know he has to be green, I just paint in basically one tone of green and then make it lighter and lighter where it needs to be on the muscles and stuff. But then for a finished piece that looks very, very plain and almost boring, really, and unrealistic as well. It gives a very plasticky look to the finished painting, because it's all in the exact same tone of green, whereas especially with skin and such, there should be all kinds of tones. Even in human skin, they teach you, when they teach you about like figure drawing and painting and stuff, to really look at the tones in the skin, because it's never just like flesh colour. There's all kinds of blues and greens, pinks, reds, browns, all kinds of shit in there, which is what I'm trying to capture ever so slightly, not putting too much effort into it, because again, this is a very quick, speed painted piece. But by mixing in different colours into your base colour, you get a variety of tones. See, green with the white gives a whole different tone to green with extra yellow with white. They're two very different greens. So you start blotching in all the shit, the neck muscles or tendons or whatever they're bloody called. And then you render as you go. So you start with rough colours, but then you add in a lighter tone here, a lighter tone there, and it starts to take more shape. Done it. And none of these happy little Bob Rossian accidents. It's all on purpose. You do it on purpose. You make everything look how it's supposed to look on purpose, not on accident. So you can see already around here it's starting to get a little bit tidied up from the blotchy midtones that I put on first. Now we're getting some more lighter tones in, rendering the form and the shape of the muscles. And what is Hulk if not a big pile of fucking muscles? And a big, sexy, sexy green man. I'm not saying I'd have sex with the Hulk. I like the character himself as opposed to the stories about the character. Especially visually. Visually, he's great. Especially if you're practicing drawing muscles and things. He's perfect. There's very few characters better than the Hulk to go to for that sort of thing. I mean, yeah, like there are more realistic, proportioned, anatomy studies you could do. But Hulk's just fucking great, isn't he? Big fucking green man. I used to study anatomy, like try to learn the names of muscles and where they all went, how they connected and the. But then I got bored and I said, fuck this, I'll just draw it. And if it looks right, then it's probably okay. Which I think is a fine method of going about doing things. Just do it. If it looks like you're doing it right, then you're probably doing it right. You fucking dinguses. These bits of skin here, where they're really at the point of like super stretching. It's, the term white knuckle is where you like go like this so tight that your knuckles turn white because you're stretching it so tight over the bone that no blood is able to get through, and therefore it goes really white. That's where the term white knuckle comes from. A white knuckle ride is a ride that you're holding on so tightly because you're scared that your knuckles go all white. And similar to like these bits of skin here, where it's pulling so tightly because of how loud he's shouting, that those little pockets here will be super, super pale. So as we go on, we will add some lighter tone into those just to pull them out, which is normally what I would do with most paintings. You get all of this done, and then for every, like for comic books, how I'd normally paint them is I do skin. I'll do all the skin of every character on the page in similar tones or whatever they need to be. I'll have to do a video, won't I, of how I paint a comic book page. But I do all the skin, and then I do all the clothes, and then I do like other details like objects that are in the pages, the panels, and then backgrounds. And then the very, very last thing I do is I get white and I do all like the super hot spot highlights on everything. So it would be like, a shiny dot here, here, here on the nose, the dots on the eyes, these little bits here, just everywhere, just pure white needs to be used. Put all that in very, very extra lasty last. Which is it's fun to do because you get to like just those little spots of white can really, really like give a lot to a painting. Like a painting can be good, but as soon as you add just those final little highlights, those little touches, it can really add a lot to a painting. And also, because that's the very last thing I do, I know once I'm doing that, this is like me being able to call this piece finished. So once I'm adding in those white highlights, I'm like, cool, this piece is done. I can work on the next one, and 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 it never ends. I like using lines in paintings. I know traditionally, if it's a painting, the whole point is that you don't have outlines and things. Because then it's like a drawing as opposed to a painting. But I like outlines. Maybe it's a crutch, maybe it's a visual preference. Maybe it's just another sign that I cannot, in fact, actually paint. But you can use, like a small handful of outlines just to emphasize certain bits here and there where you feel they are needed, maybe. And if they go shit like that, you can just fucking slap some paint over them. This hand's all white. Let's make it green. I'll leave all that bit in shadow. It's a very basic way of doing shadow is you've got the knuckles. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just 4 little mountain ranges of knuckles. And then you've got one side light, one side in shadow. and it's all very good. And there is something to be said for using like proper brush strokes in line with the form of the thing, but that's not the point today. This is, I guess this could be considered a study for how sort of quick and rough it is. And that's, you know, a trick you can use. If anyone ever says, oh, this is a bit rough and ready, looks like it was done in a hurry, you go, well, it was a study. It wasn't a full finished piece. It was merely a study, a sketch, a painting sketch. Yeah. Shut your whore mouth judging my paintings. Where are your paintings? Yeah. At least I'm trying. At least I'm doing a painting. Come around here judging me on the content of my painting. Oh, does it look rough, does it? Does it look a bit rough and rushed, a bit quickly done? Yeah? Well, that's because I did it quickly and roughly, you cook. Let's get a bit more yellow ochre in this part. Some more white. Lighten that bitch up. There you go, nice light yellowy green to play with. What shall we do with it? Oh, that is nice. We like that colour. Yeah, we do like that colour. That's a good green there. Try not to use too much of it because then it will just turn into all being that one tone of green. That will look silly. Or will it? Maybe we'll find out. Maybe we'll actually experiment and practice and find out what does and doesn't work. Or maybe we bloody won't. Oh yeah, those stretchy highlights. Now, so the light is coming from this sort of angle. I can't even paint an arrow, this sort of angle. Yeah, just in this general direction. So that's where I'm aiming most of my highlights, is on those sides. Knuckles, get a bit of highlight, and then the actual fingers. Just a little bit wary of having it all be the exact same tone, as I said before. Get a few more tones and highlights in there might be beneficial. And then it's just layers. You just keep doing the same shit again and again until you're happy with what you've got, what's in front of you. Well, obviously his fucking mouth's in front of us, isn't it? So let's get some raw umber and some yellow ochre and a little bit of whitey white. Mix those together and get yourself a vague yellowy bone tooth kind of colour, and then go. Right, how do teeth work? You've got two big front teeth there, and then two other teeth either side. Then you got the fangers, the fangy fangs, and then whatever else, and molars and shit. Just some other teeth, I don't know what they're called. Of course, I've put the light source in the wrong place. I think I've just had it coming from the front. It should have been coming from here. And then, you know, the teeth should get darker at the back and lighter at the front, because that's how physics works. That's how light and shape work. And get one more. I think I've said before, 3 to 4 layers of highlight is usually adequate for whatever it is you're painting. Not including, well, so usually it would be underpainting and then 3 to 4 layers of highlighting. So a mid-tone, highlight that a bit, and then your final like white hotspot highlights if you're doing those. That tends to be the sort of rule I go with. Certain things like skin can do with more layers if you really want to sort of blend and render it. And then certain materials might just look better with one base coat of a colour and then, you know, one highlight on top of that. It's completely a personal choice thing, I think, with that. Depends how much you want to render, how painstaking you want your piece to look. Something I found a while ago, something I quite enjoy, is giving the Hulk a blue tongue. Obviously pink would be the tradition, and it can be cool to throw a little bit of red in there to make it an ever so slightly purpley blue, like a violet. But I really like giving my Hulk a blue tongue, like he's eaten a blue ice pop, had a blue slushy, or sucked off a Smurf. Like Ed, and Eddie, they eat their jawbreakers and they have bright colourful tongues as a result of that. And it's probably a good idea to make the gums match the tongue a little bit. So a bit of a darker purple for the gums that are visible. Because if you have like pink and red all around the mouth and then just a blue tongue, it might look a little bit strange. Throw some more bluey purple in there, and you can also cover up these damn white spots with it as well. It just makes it all more cohesive. Yeah. When you're doing eyeballs, it's a very good idea not to do them white straight away, because eyeballs, obviously they're called the whites of the eyes, but they're very rarely actually white. So this is like a mixed up bone colour here. Which accounts for the shadows of the eyelid around the eye, the curvature of the eye, as well as when you add in the final white hotspot highlights, that white contrasts to this sort of bone colour, which you want, which is a good thing when painting the whites of somebody's eyes. If you want them to look shiny and wet, the shininess has to be brighter than the white of the actual eye. Just makes sense, doesn't it? That's the sort of thing you see it on a daily basis, but you don't necessarily register it. And then someone says it, or you sort of figure it out on your own, and you go, oh, of course, that's the thing. There are lots of those moments I find with art, with drawing and painting. There's lots of like, oh, of course moments where something just clicks. You just suddenly get like a concept or a way of doing things. It all suddenly falls into place as you learn and grow as an artist. Yeah, all that shit. And then use your smaller, thinner brush to actually paint the thing. And we get lighty light. Again, might be better to wait for the other layer to dry before you start putting this one on, but fuck it. That came out alright. It's really fun to slap all the paint on in big areas and then pull out shapes gradually, render them little by little. But then you get into having to do smaller and smaller details, and that's quite fun too. Of like using the smaller brush to just refine certain things, yeah. Put little highlights on little ridges of flesh here and there. Try to render creases where you can. This is called rim lighting, which can be used as something of an outline, but it's always on the inside of the piece. So if I was going to do an outline, the outline would be here, and then the rim lighting is always on the inside of that outline. Rim lighting should never be an outline. It's always used just inside an outline to help give definition and form and shit. Should do a little bit here maybe. And it's easy to use rim lighting too much to just do one whole side of the piece with it. But it's also not always a good idea to do that. It's good to use it sparingly. Use it, of course. It's a good tool, a fine tool, a necessary tool at times. But it can be used too much. So be wary of that. A nice sort of sky blue kind of colour. Yeah, I do. Cool. Just because. Here and here. And just throw some in, because why not? Bit of extra colour, a bit of tone in there. Just a few extra lines for definition, for expression. Can also help with hiding mistakes. Not mistakes, but it can, you know, certain things aren't as easy to paint as certain other things, so you can get away with stuff if you hide it behind outlines and things. Don't know where his eyes are going to be looking. Maybe this way. Or just a little bit, just enough to make you go, ooh, look at that. It's a bit of a tooth, nice wet teeth, shiny, shiny teeth. What else do we want to be wet? The lip. You can get in quite a lot of this stuff. Sometimes it can look good to do a lot, sometimes you can ruin it by doing too much. Like anything, I guess, you put too much of any one thing on it, it can ruin the entire piece. But if you do it right, you can have it looking just fucking fine. You can even put shit and stuff where it's not necessarily needed, but just for an extra little bit of highlight or what have you. Just on the, like I said, the tippy top, the apex of certain things, just to help really define and refine your shapes. Yeah. See, just those white dots give a lot more life to the piece. Can even, if you're careful, get some of this in. Some of the Hulk drooly drool mouth. That's cool. I like that. Yeah, I think that's just about done. It's a quick one. A nice quick little speed paint. It's the Hulk. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope maybe you learned something. I hope you love the Hulk as much as I do. Let's share pornographic images of the Hulk. Let's have a good time, yeah?